Hi there. I'm sitting here in the little RV camper that Kathy and I take out on occasion to visit national parks and other scenic wonders around the country when we have a chance to get away from home. And this week we've been spending a lot of wonderful time here down in Canyonlands. Anyway, I had a wonderful healing here a couple of days ago, standing right here in front of our little kitchen that I wanted to share with you. For 10 or 12 hours I've been suffering quite mightily with a horrible headache and just these waves of illness that swept through my body, and I was praying my little heart out to see my way through it, and I didn't feel like I was making any progress at all and had spent quite a restless night. And anyway, I knew from experience that if you persist with prayer, the truth eventually will come through and bring that healing that you need to be free. And so that's what I was doing, persisting in my prayers. And we just finished breakfast, and I was standing here doing the breakfast dishes and just reaching out to God for healing light. And suddenly this story of Mary Baker Eddy popped into my mind, and it was an experience she had before she discovered Christian Science, when she was still experimenting with different healing methods and trying to understand how Jesus healed. At one point she was practicing a method where at times their suffering would be transferred to her body. She would feel their suffering in her body, and it would leave their body, and then she felt it though and had to deal with it afterward. And she soon realized that was not how Jesus Christ healed, and eventually saw that Jesus Christ saw through the lie of suffering and just healed it for that person, and of course for his own benefit as well. It never was transferred. And as I thought that experience through, it suddenly occurred to me that I was doing that I was allowing other people's suffering to become my suffering. It was an unconscious thing, of course, not something I was consciously doing. And then I heard the healing thought I had been searching for all along, but hadn't realized it until this point. Evan, you mustn't take on the suffering of other people. And just like flicking a light switch, all that pain in my head and the sickness I was feeling, throughout my body, it went away just like that. I mean, I kid you not, just like, it was just gone. And the healing was so dramatic. I stood up. I've had healings like that before many times in my life, but it seems like they always catch you by surprise. But just to go from all that horrible pain and just no pain, just like that. Wow, now that's a scientific healing. But I still had to figure out exactly what happened there. Of course, the physical healing part was wonderful, but the spiritual lesson was even more important, and so I had to keep thinking about it. And over the day I realized I'd learned two lessons. Number one is always persist in your prayers. Even when it feels like you're not making progress, you really are. It's just the hand of love is there, just shaping and molding your thought and getting it to the right place where you're receptive for that idea that will just penetrate right through and bring the healing home you're searching for. And that's exactly what happened in my experience. But number two, and the more important lesson for me at this point, was to be extra clear every day to not take on other people's suffering. And so the message I want to share with you, if any of you happen to be have any type of caretaker role, perhaps, which I do. I mean, my profession is to help other people out of suffering. That's what I do every day. It's what I love to do. And honestly, I'm very good usually, at keeping my thought up there at a high place so that I am able to help others and not let their suffering become my suffering. But I realized that somewhere over the last 24 hours, I had allowed my thought had slipped to a place where I was starting to feel burdened by what I was hearing, all day long through emails and texts and phone calls from others reaching out for help out of their suffering. And then I needed to do a better job of keeping my thought up there at a high level to not allow their suffering to become my suffering. And I was reminded of a passage which I looked up later here in Science and Health, where Mary Baker Eddy wrote on page 496, "You will also learn that in science there is no transfer of evil suggestions from one mortal to another." And those were the key words. There is no transfer of evil suggestions from one mortal to another, for there is but one mind, and this ever-present omnipotent mind is reflected by man and governs the entire universe. And of course, God's man never suffers. God's man is always healthy, harmonious, peaceful, whole, and well. And that's the standard we need to hold in our thought at all times, especially if we have any type of caretaker role as a practitioner, as I am, or perhaps as a mother or a father caring for children, or maybe a family member caring for another family member, or for a parent who's not feeling well, maybe a teacher, a nurse, any type of role where you're helping other people that are suffering and they need your help. It's really important to keep your thought right up there with the truth that God's man never suffers. He's always healthy, well, harmonious, whole, and free. And this is your desire to bring that truth into this person's experience and help lift their thought up to a higher level too, so they can experience that as their reality as well. 30 minutes or later, I was outside and packing up with my wife Kathy, and I said, man, I feel so good, I can't believe it. But it truly is a joy to practice Christian Science, because this is the kind of healings it can bring into your life. They're the best kind of healings of all.